of the Droid Builders STEAM Academy. It started at Chicago, Star Wars Celebration Chicago, with 2 classes. We did one over building circuits, paper circuits, and then we also did one over programming the little Sphero BB-8 droids. And they were very, very well received. So we started planning for 2020. And as y'all know, 2020 got pushed to 2022, which gave us a lot more time to plan. And we brought the first full STEAM Academy, which was an actual classroom with formal classes that were at scheduled times for kids to come in to learn things like 3D printing and programming and lots of different stuff, how to do constructions of like hands and things like that, all the way to a make and take room where students could kind of drop in and do activities like these little lightsabers that we made. We learned how to play Djaric and play Sabak. Just do all kinds of little drop-in types so that they could come in according to their schedule and when they had time between autograph signings and all that kind of stuff. It was far better received than we thought. We anticipated it doing okay. We were hoping kids would come, and we were swamped the entire time.
Yeah, we didn't get a break, and it was an incredible opportunity to learn. And a lot of parents thought it was the best thing about Celebration. So
yeah, lots of amazing responses to it. So because of that, here's some pictures from the rooms from some of our events. Because of the success of this, we had a lot of the members from the UK Droid Builders that were there, and they saw what we were doing. And then it was announced that Celebration would be in Europe. And so Michael Badley took charge on that and said, help us. We want to do this when it comes to Europe. So that was our next foray. We partnered with the Grant Imahara STEAM Foundation for this. So they helped use their leverage as an organization to talk to Lucasfilm. That helped us to get, a lot of the things that we needed to get this off the ground, especially in another country. We also added some classes with Pinewood Studios industry professionals, which was really cool. So we had Heinrich, who is one of the artists. Forgot to put his name in there. His last name. Anyway, we had Matt Denton, who did animatronics, Lee Towersey, of course, and his team from the Creature Shop. They did robotics. So we had all these industry professionals. Thea, who does fabrication, she does a lot of the creatures, the actual animal and, kind of costume creatures. She's made those. It was amazing. And so we worked with them. I actually did talks with them over Zoom and helped to create their presentation by, here's some things that you can do with kids. Here's some ways to connect it. And they did amazing on their presentations. The kids loved hearing from them. So that was something that was really new and exciting. And we hope to continue in some way, depending on where our next celebration is. We unfortunately are not going to be able to go to Japan because Lucasfilm said there was not going to be enough room. But hopefully the next one, certainly when we come to the States, we'll be doing this again. So then here's some more photos from when this is Lee Towersey's Creature Shop group. You can see, the kids were just great learning how to control the droids. And they actually got to see droids from the television shows that haven't aired yet. So that was really, really cool.
And the adult droid builders also wanted to attend a lot of the talks. And while the sitting room was meant for the kids, there was standing room only at quite a few of them. It really was well attended.
Yeah, we had a lot of adults in the back of the room for sure. But we did focus on all of these activities. We always have adults that want to come, but we focus on the kids first. So we tell people that, hey, you can come in as long as you're not taking the place of where a kid should be. So we've had bouncers that have helped us with that, including Anna's husband. So it's fantastic. So what's new and going on right now? So let me tell you, this has been a whirlwind since we started this. It has been just crazy how fast all this has happened. Directly inspired by what we did at these celebration events, Michael Pearl, who many of you know does the Human Cyborg Relations app that some of y'all are integrating into your droids, he has taken over as the new president of the Grant Imahara STEAM Foundation. He really liked this partnership that we did with Pinewood Studios. And we also had a lot of conversations about, working with teachers and providing activities and things like that. And so he reached out to me one day and he's like, hey, I really want to do something. I was watching all these things that you did at Pinewood, and I think we can do this with other industry people. So what we have developed is he sends out and pitches to these different industry stars and professionals like Carrie Byron, Lee Towersey, several other people that are out there that work in the industry, Nike designers, we have video game developers, and they do a 5 to 7 minute video about what they do and what they enjoy about their work and how they got involved with it. And then at the end of the video, they have this question that's posed for students. And then at the educators, on the other hand, this is where I come in, is that I, working with a team of educators, write a lesson plan that accompanies the video. So it meets a lot of goals. First of all, it's helping to bring STEM concepts into the classroom. But also one of the biggest things that we have trouble with in education, and I think Anna would agree with this, is that we want kids to see real world connections with things that they're doing in the classroom. And we want to find industry professionals so that they can see these examples, but it's hard for us to go out and find them. And often they're not in our own communities. On the other hand, I hear all the time from industry professionals that like, man, we really want to get into the classrooms and help support teachers, but we don't know how to do that. So this does this in kind of a remote way, but it makes it really easily accessible to everybody. So season 1 just debuted this summer. It has been a mad dash because we put together 12 of these in like less than 2 months or 3 months of time. And it features 2 droid builders. So Lee Towersey is one, and his lesson actually dropped yesterday. So I'm going to show you his video here in just a second. And then Saida Lacey, she has a lesson too. And it's going to be a little bit later in the season because we're still working on a few little bugs with that. But so we have 2 droid builders that are on here that are going to be doing these lessons. And then these are things that you can also share when you go out and tell everybody about what you do. You might be able to share that particular lesson, or at least share the resource if you go do talks at schools and things like that. So just need to click on that link. I'm going to show you Lee's video because it's really fun. His, what we did for his, I actually wrote his lesson, which was a really honor for me. It's really special because of knowing him. Is it linking?
It shows up on your laptop, but that's not being projected.
Okay,
So
we may have to fix that in just a second. So I'll tell you about this while he's working on that. So anyway, it's really special for me because I remember meeting Lee back in, I think it was in Chicago when I first met him. And, of course, we've heard about him a lot through this organization. And so here, after all these years that I've known him and gotten to see him, that I was actually getting to help write this lesson plan for him. And we did it over, it's paper circuits. It's different than what we did at Celebration. It's a completely different lesson plan that utilizes paper circuits. And his question is, he's actually using his droid to get kids thinking about a problem and trying to figure out what might be wrong with the droid. So let me get this going here in just a second. I should have warned you about that.
I'm sorry.
Is it a control click thing?
no,
It's a
PowerPoint.
It's a PowerPoint.
Okay, well, I'll pull it up at the end, just off the internet if we need to. So we are going to continue. We are going to be doing more seasons of this. I don't know what the timeline is going to be for that, but we will. Oh, there it is. Right now, we've got 12 episodes that'll be airing over the summer, and there's going to be one new one each week. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And while he's getting that set up, one of the things that you'll notice about this is, I know it's like vertical video. All these years we've been told not to do vertical videos, But these are designed to be like influencer style videos because that's what all the kids like these days.
My name's Lee Towell.
So we're trying to turn
See,
industry
I work
professionals
for
into
Lucasfilm in the
influencers.
creatures department. Hi, my name's Lee Townsy. I work for Lucasfilm in the creatures department. I've probably built nearly 100 droids, all for Star Wars.
My systems are failing. You want to put what in my head?
When I was younger, I used to build things out of Lego. Had to be R2-D2, of course. I looked for something different to build, and I found the R2 Builders Club.
We're here at the R2 Builders booth. Tell me a little bit about what it is you guys do.
It's an international group where we build R2s.
It took me about 6 months of research to decide how I was going to build it. I didn't go to college, so I hadn't learned this anywhere on how to do it. It was all self-taught. And then when Disney took over Lucasfilm, they needed some R2-D2s for new films.
Hey, Sacred Island, watch the language.
I was invited to Pinewood Studios with one of the other builders in the club. We thought it was just for consultancy or something like that because we've never worked in the film industry before. But it turned out they actually offered us a job.
I turned to our creature shop and I said, I think we've got to hire those guys.
Let's bring out Lee Towersy. You were once guys out there in the audience. Now you're up here on the stage.
This is my workshop. I've got lots of toys and laser cutters and 3D printers and so on. I'm lucky enough to go onto set and control them as well in front of camera. I don't take it for granted any second I'm here, it is unbelievable. And they are here. There we go. There's some of my droids. I have to check these every day before we start filming, making sure the remote control works and so on, making sure the lights work. It's no good finding out when they're filming. So we'll do R2-D2. You can see a little bit on how he works. I'm going to turn it on here. Got a button, so if you went driving off when I wasn't expecting him to, I can quickly turn them off. We should hear the sound in a minute. So the lights are working here at the back. There should be 2 lights, some more lights at the front, those 2 there, and this one here. So we seem to have a little problem here. So this light should be flashing. It should be flashing like that. And that's not working. I'm going to go away, have a quick look at it. Maybe you can have a think about what could be wrong with it as well, and I'll see what I can find out.
So you can see in there, first of all, he did an amazing job with this video. And you can see that that last little bit was that was like the one part that these aren't scripted. It was just like, here's what we want you to end with was this question. And so now students are going to take the activities and learn about some basics about circuits. It teaches them about what a circuit is. This is the lesson plan, and what's the difference between series and parallel. And then they actually build a paper parallel circuit, series circuit, and then they design a circuit on paper. And then they have to try to send an email to Lee about what they think we need to check to figure out if what's going on with the droid. So, and to use some of the language of what they learned in the lessons when they make that proposal. So, and then on top of that, we are also doing these with sustainability goals in mind. And so his lesson focuses a lot on right to repair, that we should all have the right to be able to repair something on our own, not just have to send it off and pay extra money, just because it's their product or whatever. So we want kids to understand that you may know how to fix this, and if it's out of warranty and all that kind of stuff and you want to do it, great, you should have the right to do that. So they want, obviously, not try to tear something apart at home that they don't know how to fix, but so that's something to look forward to, and I will post the link on that, and you can also, if you have me on Facebook, I've been posting them, you'll see the links there. You can also find these at the Grant Imahara STEAM Foundation page or at their website, so that you can see the different lessons that are up there. Okay, so what about local cons? How do we bring celebration to your areas?
So, if I can get my microphone to stay. How many of you guys have been to a con and wish that you had something to do with the kids? Because the kids are like bringing the magic of Star Wars to kids, and the droids, they are the biggest draw. Kids love the droids, and we want the kids to get into it. And as a science teacher, I love being able to figure out ways to get kids interested in science. And so some of these lessons that we've done at Celebration could be easily adapted to your local cons. That being said, you need to have they get an audience that's interested in pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, and technology, but you also get a lot of kids that wouldn't see this somewhere else. And so this is a great place to reach an audience and do your local school a big favor.
Yeah, one thing as a teacher I love about going to cons is I often see a lot of those kids that you don't see in more of the mainstream stuff. And so it's fun to connect with those kids, and they're surprised and they're like, "You like to do Comic Cons?" I'm like, "Heck yeah." So it's a great way to get a broad demographic, but especially some of those kids that sometimes are hard to reach. So here's some of the activities that we've done, and we are going to talk about these, but we're going to start being able to put these in your hands, and we'll talk about how in just a little bit.
So this promotes the interdisciplinary learning. As a kid, you're a very concrete thinker. It's always right or wrong, black or white. And droids are one of the few places that bridges all of this together. It's not just about building. It's also about programming. It's also about painting. It's also about making it move and working with the batteries and making sure that you're safe with it. So it promotes interdisciplinary learning and especially art at a Comic-Con where you have cosplay, artists, acting, STEM concepts. It's a really valuable tool.
Definitely. And you can inspire not only youth, but also adults. I mean, it's amazing how I hear stories a lot about how because an adult brought their student or brought their kid there and they saw some of these things, how they are going and taking them back and starting things. In fact, we have a quote later to share about that. Lots of hands-on learning experiences in a really fun environment. So it really gives the kids something to do in addition to going out and seeing things. And especially since sometimes cons are a lot of things that you have to buy, like you go to booths, there's things they're selling, you go buy autographs, and this is usually something that's provided for free to help engage the kids.
So when you're looking at doing this, you got to keep a lot of things in mind because this can be a simple operation, but it's often a lot more. So when you're thinking about that, you've got to think about your venue. If it's a very small local con, it's probably going to be a lot easier to get table space, the size of your booth, whether you have available resources, whether you're going to be buying it all or you're going to have people help donate, whether you're going to have access to electricity, as we've all learned here today. Is it going to be something that people just drop in on, or are you going to make it a formal classroom activity? And then what are you going to do? As a teacher, it always surprises me that kids are surprised that hot glue guns are hot. Safety is important. And before you let loose with a bunch of different activities, you've got to be able to consider space and safety. So
safety is priority. I had something, I lost my train of thought. Okay. You also want to look at the partnerships that you have available to you. And this is going to be primarily your volunteers. And I wrote Droid Builder volunteers. You're not limited to that, especially if you're in an area that may not have a lot of droid builders. Reach out to your 501st Rebel Legion friends. In fact, we had a lot of Rebel Legion 501st people that did not have droids, but they heard we were doing the STEAM room, and they came and volunteered. So you can reach out to them for help. You might have some educators that either friends or teachers that have taught your children that might be willing to come and help. And you might even consider co-sponsoring an activity with an exhibitor or an artist that is going to be there. As far as marketing goes, we're not, you don't have to go out and pay to market your deal, but, do the things that you would do like you did for DroidCon. I saw a lot of people posting, I'm on my way to DroidCon, on your personal Facebook pages. If you have a kind of a brand page, like I know there's a lot of y'all out here that have pages for either your droid or for what you do, like Matt Long has a Mad Scientist Workshop. You can use those pages to help promote what you're doing. The one thing that we would ask is if you're going to be doing some of the things that we're going to provide for you is that you mention or use the Droid Builders STEAM Academy. And we want to continue to point back to that as we start sharing these resources out for everybody to use. So go ahead.
This is an example of the make and take room in Anaheim. And then this was an example of a classroom that was teaching a coding lesson with Josh Montgomery.
So this is obviously also a big scale representation of what you could do, but we know that's probably not going to be possible for you at a local con. So this might be, instead of a traditional panel, like you do see at cons, you might be able to apply for space to do a panel, but make it more of an interactive, activity session for kids where you could maybe teach a little activity or just have a few tables set up and let kids come and do some of the activities. There's lots of ways you can approach this. And so that you can see how they did the STEM domes and they actually did a training on that, but very easily could be set up similar to this where there's a different activity on each table for kids to do. And again, a lot of that's going to depend on your volunteers because you're really going to need volunteers. One of the things when we were planning for celebration, we originally thought we would have all these tables and have instructions on the table and just have one or two people that would be jumping from table to table like we're used to having to do all the time as educators. We're like, oh, we'll just do that. Well, we very quickly found out it did not work in this environment because not everybody's teachers like us. They're not used to what we have to do all the time. And the tables that had a volunteer that was dedicated at that station were the ones that were more engaged. So now when we plan, we know we need to have somebody at each table each time that space is open.
So things to think about more. What's your time frame? Give yourself a break. Don't overcommit. And you say that, but like I went to Celebration and spent the majority of our time in the Droid Builders STEAM room. It was a wonderful experience, but we've already said, Nancy said, we're scheduling lunches next time. We're going to shut down things, bathroom breaks, things like that. Are you going to be next to the Droid Builders table? Are you going to need your own table? Scheduling and providing space for organizers. If you're just getting started, pick one or two things so that you don't get overwhelmed by the amount of choices that you can have. Resources are also really important. I'm not necessarily a sustainability, but I like reusing a lot of stuff. And so some of the stuff you can keep, but supplies for your activities, the 3D printed parts, how many are you going to have? Are you going to give them away? Will you get them in time for when you need them? Can you have people help print them? They saved my butt in London because all the people in England, instead of trying to bring them over on a suitcase, they just printed them there and then they showed up. It was wonderful. Materials to make the activity was in the tools needed. Hot glue guns, scissors, things like that, rubber bands. And then the biggest one that we didn't trash, clean up. That was a big consideration. And so that we figured it out, but that was something that we hadn't thought about before we went into it.
Yeah, we were so worried about the activities. We're going to clean this up.
You want to talk about implementation?
Sure. So when you're implementing this, again, like we said, you want to look at all these, what is your venue? What kind of resources do you have? I would recommend that you start small. There's so many ways you could do this. And so you could even probably find some creative ways, but a couple of things that I have seen, first of all, we can start with just doing a table. And I can't remember if it's on the next slide. Yes. So we have a little con that, for example, that I just did in June, and I just had this little space. I mean, you can see I was sharing it with Rebel Legion and 501st folks. So I just had this little space where I set up one of the STEAM domes, which is one of the activities that will be shared. And I added my Babu Frick, because it's got so many wires. So I made it look like he was actually working. And that's if you haven't seen him, he's the one from Disney. And then I set it up, had it plugged into my laptop so that I could run that demo when kids come by. And so they would hear it. They'd see the little pie plates open and the lights go off and all that kind of good stuff. And then over here, I don't know if you can see this, but we've got some little microprocessor ESP boards that JD Parr over in the UK made. And those were ones that the kids could actually press the buttons and see all the lights and things like that. So, and then I have my droid set up. So this was just kind of interactive in that there were things the kids could come and press and come and look at, and made it really easy. And then you can just have people, you know, scheduled to come and man that part of the table during your con. So it's a great way to get started. How many of y'all have Droid Builders tables at your cons?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's certainly something you'll need to coordinate with your group. Now, in, you know, little Lubbock, Texas, compared to some of the cities that y'all are from, you know, we don't always have lots of space. Sometimes we get a table and sometimes we don't. And as of late, we haven't gotten a full table because our group built this really big cantina prop. So I'm going to start requesting my own table again. You know, you can work with your groups on, say, hey, this is what I would like to do and integrate in here. Can we make space for this, and so forth. My little satellite group I'll call is the DFW Builders. And so I've kind of, you know, I grew up in the DFW area. So I also go do cons with them. And I was like, hey, I can bring this and this. And we kind of did the same thing, set it out. And it was really cool when Vivian Blair came by and she got to play with our STEAM stuff and everything. I should have put that photo in there. And kind of see what we had. And then we also set up the racetrack, which we're going to talk about. And we had it on the ground. So we only had a couple of things, but it's stuff that's easy to implement. That the kids had a blast driving the little cars around on the track and everything too. They were all over the place. So,
You know, and it doesn't have to be as the racetracks are awesome, but they're also expensive. And except it can be a little lightsaber with a glow stick that has lovely scientific principles behind it. And the lightsabers are like 5 cents worth of filament, if that much. And you can talk about that, but it really can be as simple or as complicated as you want to make it.
Absolutely. And one thing that was nice about this particular event was that there was a gentleman there that had just started droid building, and he's building one of Mr. Baddeley's 3D printed droids. And he saw this and came over to ask questions about it. And then we discovered that we had another droid builder in town. So in a town where there's only been 2 droid builders, we were like, yay, you know, so it was really exciting. So where do we start? We have created the new Droid Builders STEAM Academy Facebook group. And we've talked about this, and last year I said, hey, we're going to try to start sharing, you know, activities and things like that. And you know, with everything that's been going on with Celebration and Steam Star, some of that had to kind of get pushed back a little bit. But I figured that this would be a great way, because I know a lot of us chat on Facebook, for us to share activities, things that we're doing at the con, because I know there's a lot of things that y'all do that are really fantastic ideas. And the education team may want to say, hey, can we write a lesson about that and include these in the resources and things like that. And then also, as we start sharing these activities out and you try to implement them, or if you have questions about how to implement them, you're going to have access to our education team to reach out and ask those questions and get responses, you know, fairly quickly. We are teachers, so we are kind of busy, but it would just be a way to have that extra, you know, hey, we want to do this and we can't find such and such. Is there something else we can use instead? Or we want to try this and this is all the space. What would you suggest for this space or whatnot? Because I know that we can sit here and give you all kinds of details, but until you actually try to do it at your space, it's going to be hard to know all the questions that you're going to have. So we encourage you to join this Facebook group. And we also have the Droid Builders Holocron app. And if you don't have that, it's on the Apple Store, and it's also in the Android store. And as a part of that app, I tried to take a video, but we couldn't get it loaded. There is if you can see right down here, there's a place that says Droid Builders and STEAM. And when you click on that link, you can actually see lesson plans for some of the activities that we've done. Now, it's still there's not a lot yet. We're getting ready to start adding those and having those available on the app. But it is one other thing that you can point to so that you have it handy right there if you want to look at it or kind of see some ideas. But we're going to be populating that this summer. In the Facebook group, we'll be releasing some activities, which I'm going to talk about here in just a second, and in a way that will make them shareable so that you can use them, implement, and then you can also share them with teachers, other educators.
So where do you start? Well, first of all, if you don't know what to do, ask myself or Nancy or somebody who's a teacher and work with them and start to make your plan. Present the plan when requesting booth space, talk to people, network with them, figure out your layout, your description, your times, etc. Start small, make sure you have the volunteers. Purchase the materials ahead of time so that you can plan for. So the idea is you do it yourself and you give yourself 15 minutes and you see how many of those that you can do. And then you multiply that kind of by the number of seats at a table and the amount of kids or people that you expect to participate. Because you can think you have enough stuff and you will be running out to the FedEx store to make copies because you've run out of stuff midway through. And then have fun with it because it's as rewarding as talking to kids about droids and things like that, but also teaching them and helping them learn about this stuff.
Absolutely. It's really hard to predict how much you need in materials. That was always one of our challenges. Even after we did this once, you don't know the unknown. You don't know how many people are going to find your room, how many people are going to buy into it. We didn't know if we were going to have the same response in the UK as we did in America. So I just kind of came up with this formula because I was just trying to think of some way to calculate it. And so like Anna had mentioned, we thought about how many seats do you have at the table, about how long does the activity take. Most of our activities in the make and take room were about 10 to 15 minutes each. So that means you could do you could have 4 people do it in an hour at a seat. And then I added the extra 0.2 after you multiply by how many made per hour and number of hours as like an extra 20%. And I guess I should have put on there, add that 20%. I didn't write my formula correctly. I'm ashamed of myself as an engineering teacher. I will fix that. All of that. Then add an extra 20%. Yeah. You will kind of, that way that gives you that buffer in case you just didn't estimate it right. Or you're going to have some kids that'll finish it fast or they'll start it and they'll be like, I don't really want to do this. That happens. So.
It's also useful to have somebody who can go out and run and get supplies if you need them. So
yeah. Make sure that you consider, I'm going to go back a second to presenting your plan when requesting your booth space. Over the years, I've really learned how important that is. And we were actually having a conversation about this last night at dinner. And I know James knows about some of this too, because of some stuff we dealt with the DFW builders, because we've had big spaces in the past. And this year they gave us a smaller space at a recent event. And one of the things that I've learned is if you can go ahead when you request a booth and you show them a plan of what you want to do, you want to make sure that you are showing them the benefit of you being there because they're making money and you're going to be a draw. And so you can say, hey, we can help promote this on our social media pages, but this is what we're going to do, which we think your clientele will enjoy. And so you want to tell them, show them what you're going to do when you're requesting that booth space or that panel space or whatever. And that might help them to be more apt to say, oh, okay, we'll give you an extra 20 feet for that or whatever, so that you can do all those things. One other thing too is to consider, it's really important that you know what your volunteers are like because of that time factor. And you don't want to be stuck doing this all weekend by yourself. I mean, as much as we love STEM, it's exhausting. And that whole lunch thing, it's become a big joke with us, but it's really funny. It's not funny, but it's funny because like when we did Anaheim, we were exhausted and we were like basically living off of protein bars. And I remember our early conversations with Mr. Bradley, with Michael, and he was like, well, we're going to make sure we have enough people so that we can actually have lunch and all this kind of stuff. I was like, okay.
And the presentations in different classes got so popular that my husband, who's not a droid builder, basically was a bouncer to keep kids once the room filled up. They were that popular that we needed to turn people away so that the people wouldn't be interrupted. So
you have to have that plan to be able to make sure that you get a break, that your volunteers get a break. They're like, yes. Because it can be, it's so much fun. I mean, it is fun exhaustion, but it is exhausting. And you've got to take care of yourself. You've got to be prepared in case somebody can't make it, like me. And when I got really the first day, so it's really makes a big difference when you have that time. So make sure that you've got that set up. Get your materials ahead of time. And again, you know where to reach out if you have questions about how to do that. Oh, and then again, if you want to do a workshop, that's great. If you want to do a table activity, if you want to even have dedicated table space that will run all day. But if that's too much and you can't get the volunteers, don't feel like you can't do something. You can schedule something in your booth. So you can say, hey, the whole weekend, hey, from 4 to 5 today, come back because we're going to do a special activity for kids. And then that way you only have to do it for that hour or 2 hours. And then, rally your volunteers for that period of time. So be creative. There's lots of ways you can pull this off. And you can see, this place was crazy busy. This was the art. Was this Artbot or
this is Artbot and then
Artbot.
The Toothbrush Bot, and those were both very simple.
Oh yeah, the toothbrush.
Simple and easy materials that you can do and that are pretty cost effective.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so start your attack run. Over the coming weeks, activities and lesson plans are going to be shared in the Facebook group and on the Holocron app. And you'll have to bear with us. We can't get it all out at one time because we're teachers and we're super busy. And contrary to popular belief, we do not have the summers off. I've already been to like 2 workshops and I've been writing lessons since school got out. So, but we're going to do this in 2 ways. So you're going to get a set that has the activity instructions. So for example, the lightsaber, the little mini lightsaber with the straws. It's a fun little activity that uses batteries and straws and electrical tape. So we will have like a 1-page instruction, step by step on like what materials you need, how much you need, how to actually put it together. We will also share like our photo instructions or a click sheet with it if you need that. And that's going to be something like for you, the builder, to help integrate it at a con. But we're also going to have an actual lesson plan that goes with the activity so that you can maybe say if you do the lightsaber activity, you might have a QR code next to it that says, hey, teachers want to bring this activity into your classroom. Then they could scan that. They can access the formal lesson plan, which are all going to be tied to next gen science standards. That way it's kind of universal no matter, where you're from. And they can use that in the classroom. They can help bring that into what they're teaching. So we're going to be releasing those over the coming weeks and months. We'll probably, I can't say for sure how many we're going to release. We'll start with a few, then try to do some more. We're going to do them in a PDF document so they're all nice and stylized and everything else and good for sharing, okay? So that is going to be coming, and you'll see announcements and things like that in the Facebook group for when that's going to happen. We'll also put things in the other builders group. I'll go in and say, hey, this month we're going to be releasing X, Y, and Z activities for your cons if you're interested. So you can watch for that kind of stuff coming up. Just to finish up, and then we'll open it up for questions. I wanted to share with you a couple of quotes. When we were talking about Japan this year, it was a little frustrating because we were really excited about it, but unfortunately they've told us that there's not going to be space for it. But we had reached out, or somebody on our behalf had reached out to some of the fan groups and asked for their thoughts on STEAMs because we wanted to see what we could use to help leverage our position there. And this was one of the quotes from an attendee. Anaheim STEAM 2022 STEAM room was the all caps highlight for my 4 and 7-year-olds. We attend other conventions at Anaheim Convention Center, and my kids are always hoping for its return. I'm at WonderCon with my now 8-year-old, and she actually pointed out the rooms to me wistfully. Kind of broke my heart a little bit, but it's so sweet. There's our education team from 2022. These are some of them, at least, are going to be on the Facebook page to help with moderation.
And then from another celebration, Grace, it was an amazing experience in London. One of our favorite parts of the event. My daughter loved it, and I got to meet the amazing Michael Badley. That inspired me to start 3D printing droids. I now have a club at my school where my students are also making them. None of that would have happened without this room. And we heard that over and over again. It just was awesome to make those little personal connections with some kids. And some of them were as young as 2 or 3. And it was just a place that they could go and play with some Legos and color, but it was a quiet place that they could recharge. And it was an amazing experience.
Absolutely. And, this is what we love to hear. I mean, you are not only doing something to teach kids, but you're empowering and inspiring others to be able to go do the same away from you, even without a droid. And I think all of us can probably, say that we're here because we saw these droids on Star Wars and we were inspired by them. And now you're doing the same for this next generation. So it's a great opportunity to really get these concepts, the STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, into what kids love and get them doing the same things. And my biggest thing about all this is that, and what I love about this community is that we are all showing people how to be lifelong learners, because I don't think there's anybody in this room that says, oh, they knew how to do everything when they built their droid. Can anybody raise their hand and say that? Don't you dare. You would be one of the closest that I would say, okay, yeah, Wayne can raise his hand. Absolutely. I mean, all of us have learned something to be able to do this. And one of the greatest gifts that you can give is to model lifelong learning. So model lifelong learning, and you will not only change a person, but you will help change the world. I truly believe that. And so this is where our opportunity lies here, to do that for kids and for adults alike. So you can contact us. We both are through the droidbuilders.net. So it's Nancy.Schunke. Just don't forget to leave the C. Don't leave the C out of my last name. So a lot of people do that. And then they're like, I emailed you. I didn't get anything. It's SCHUNKE. And then there's Anna's, Ann Lenhart at droidbuilders.net. You can email us there. Droidbuilders.info is a place that we're going to start posting stuff as well. But again, that Facebook page is going to be probably the best way to have access to us, so that you can ask questions, and then you'll have the education team available to answer those. This was the team from London, and well, the 5 core people from the US, and JD Parr from the UK. In this photo, he designed our little microcontrollers. Just an amazing, amazing group of people. If you ever get to meet them, they're so much fun. And now for your first activity.
This probably was the most popular thing we did in London and in Anaheim. And as somebody who jumped on the Michael Badley train, it can be intimidating to start with a full-blown droid. But making a baby droid that's really simple and easy is something that a lot of people can do, including kids and teenagers. So I love this activity. I love what we're about ready to do. And I can't encourage you enough to try to get as many different people involved, including makerspaces and libraries and your own schools if you're involved.
So we have 10 of these droids that are ready to paint this weekend. I know that Steele teased this, or the DroidCon organizers teased this. And I don't know if these are the actual ones up here.
Servos.
Oh, servos go with those two, yes. And so these are the Badley mini or baby droids, I think is what they're technically called. And what we're going to do is you can get into a team. And again, we have 10 available. So you'll need to kind of organize yourself and then let us know that you want to participate. And we'll make sure that we've got enough droids, or if we need to, organize any groups or whatever. And from now until Sunday, your job is going to be to assemble and paint this droid. And so it'll give you some experience on how these work and everything else. And then these baby droids are going to be used at our next Star Wars celebration so that we have them, because the UK has a set already, but we don't have a set in the US. So we'll use these to do this track and do the baby droid activity at Star Wars celebration. If you are in Badley's group, you can get access to this. Is it part of the paid Patreon or is it on the free Steam? Okay. So if you want to use them, talk to Mr. Badley about how to get access to that. And also this mat that we had drawn for Celebration Europe, I believe is available. So if you want to make the mat. So this is another really easy thing that you could implement at your con. This is what we did at DFW. We didn't do these droids. We actually got a thing off of Thingiverse because we were trying to do it really fast. And we did these little mouse droids. So I know we've done the mouse droid races at Celebration, so you could do that as well. But that little course is great because it kind of gives them a little objective to follow and things like that. And there's even some little cards that if you wanted to give them a little driver's license that you could print and hand out.
That was really fun.
It's really fun.
That was really cool because adults wanted the driver's license too.
Yeah.
And so that was awesome.
So between now and Sunday, you have to assemble and paint this. And then we're going to have a little vote at the end for the best one. And I believe Steele has a little prize for that. Is that correct?
Ooh.
I guess I do now.
Oh.
Well played,
And he thought he was going to heckle me today. So, but we do want you to do this. It'll be a lot of fun and it'll be neat to see these. So have fun with it, be creative. And it'll be a great opportunity for you to kind of see how these are all put together. And they're really not hard. So, all right. Well, I think I don't think we have anything after this. Nope. That's all it is for us. So, what questions do you have? Yes, Jen. Which link?
You're not live yet.
No, it's probably because of that. Okay, yeah, I'll check it. I will fix that here just a second.
Yeah. So, based on your experience, based on your experiences working with different students, what advice would you have to us to customize or to tailor what we talk about and what we discuss with students of different ages that you think they might be most receptive to hearing?
So I designed. Crap.
Here, use that to hand.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm a little bit of a weirdo in that I got my degree in elementary ed, taught middle school, and I now currently teach high school. So the middle school and elementary school, the simpler the better. As you get in towards high school, you can get more complex and get a lot more integration because they go from being sort of concrete thinkers into adults. And so making it fun and simple and kind of knowing your audience. And if you want to get something, if you don't know what age group you're going to go do the upper, like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th kind of, and that you can skew it down to lower kids that are in early elementary, but you can also make it more complex to high schoolers. And I realize that doesn't answer your question, but the activities will have age, like grade levels on them for people to use.
For the younger students, the activity itself, just having something to enjoy is valuable.
You know, we did the coloring activity and that turned into one of my favorite ones. Yes. And I used it with kids that had developmental disabilities, and they were able to, some of them really got into the coloring and made their own droids, and some of them just scribbled and then cut it out. But they really got into it. It was a lot of fun, and it worked really well. But we had high schoolers doing the little brush bots, and that literally was a cut off brush head with a motor and double-sided sticky tape. And they decorated it and they got it to go, and then they had a little motor that, or a little robot that they could take with them. So it really just depends on, but high schoolers love the Dejaric table. I mean, they just love the Dejaric table. Adults love the Dejaric table. Kids, it was a little over their heads, but they love that table. It was an awesome resource. And so.
Yeah. And I would just add, just, you know, being there to talk to the kids. You can take anything down or bring it up wherever you need to. And a lot of times just your presence and spending time makes a huge difference. So we've had kids that have come through these events that, like, one that really stands out for me was this young lady with autism who came, and she was like at everything. And when you saw her, you know, she walked in, she was carrying like this stuffed animal, and she's probably like 15. Do you remember who I'm talking about? I mean, she was older, and you know, and she was carrying a stuffed animal, which seemed kind of different. But she was clearly, when you talked to her, very intelligent and very into everything that she was doing. And I loved when I watched her and Matt Denton talking. And she was asking questions because she wanted to be an engineer. And you could just tell he just gave her his time. And that is huge. That can make a big difference.
We have a question over here.
So where can we find the Holocron app? Because I found it before. I've downloaded it on a previous phone, and now I cannot find it. Is it available for Android?
It's supposed to. Oh.
So the newer Androids, it's not there right now. But it will be. They made a lot of API changes. You know, like Facebook login is working currently. We're gonna.
Okay. I think that this new QR code is working now. I'm not sure what happened with the last one. I do want to, someone just raised this and I forgot to mention it. When you join it, it does say internal, and you're not joining something. I mean, first of all, we have to approve your joining. But anyway, I put internal on there because this is strictly for Droid Builders. And then we're going to have another way that we share it to the public. You know, we might start another group that's more public. We just don't want, we want to watch out that we don't have spammers. We also don't want people just coming in and not knowing how to use our stuff. Does that make sense? So it's open to anybody that's a droid builder that's part of our organization, just to kind of help us kind of wrangle everybody in right now.
Okay.
Right, so minus the 3D part of this little kit, what cost is involved with making this kit here?
You can get the servos off of Amazon. When I bought them, they were a lot cheaper than they were. I don't know how much they currently are, but you can get a pretty good lot of them for under, I want to say 10 or 15, 20 bucks. And then just some basic wiring. I can't speak to the remote control because I use my regular remote control. I will say you can use your cell phone depending on how you choose to control it. There's a lot of options for it.
I think I really like this for my wife's classroom. I think
this
would be a good project
well.
that they could do throughout the year,
And
build it, print it on their own printer, and then
if not to some,
and maybe at the end of the year do a droid race or something.
Mr. Badley's group, but classroom teachers have.
I'm a Patreon, so I mean I have access to them. I just haven't.
You're not.
I built the big droid, so I haven't really looked at them. I mean, I'm just a Patreon because I've printed his domes. They're
fun.
But
If
I think
you
this
have
would be a good
questions, other
project for her
teachers have done
students. I'm looking at this and I'm like, yeah, she
No,
needs
it's
to
cool.
do this.
It's cool. And the baby R5 is my favorite, but that's just me.
Well, my old R2 sits in her classroom all year, so they get to look at a whole, full droid all year. So building their own, I think they would really dig that.
I have always bought these like in boxes of 10 on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You can also do like.
There you go.
So it's something I can swing and I can donate,
Yeah.
I don't want to commit to too much.
Right. But you might be able to find somebody that will help donate. You say
that's me.
There you go. There you go.
She gets, a stipend that she can spend. I mean, and
Right.
that would count. Like it does buy 3D, printer filament and stuff, but
Absolutely. Does anybody else have any questions? I think we got to wrap up
Hold
here
on,
in a
one
minute.
more. Okay.
Well, give it just give it. Be patient. I set it to where we had to approve people first because again, we don't want a bunch of crazies. Oh, I'm not talking about y'all.
Hey, some of us resemble.
So I'll go in and start approving people, and then that'll open up, and we'll put the link up again. Yeah. Okay, I'll figure it out. I did some settings I haven't done before, so I'll get it figured out, and we'll put the QR code up again. So, okay, anybody else?
Okay, yeah, time. We gotta go.
Okay. Thank y'all so much. I think that went